Ifoma was known as the heaviest girl in the entire village. Since childhood, her body had always been round and large, and as she grew older, her size only increased. Because of that, she had no real friends and spent most of her time in silence. The other village girls mocked her endlessly, calling her names like Hippo and Buffalo. They ridiculed her for wearing dresses that were either too tight or too short. Whenever she passed, they would giggle, whisper, and even place small stones on her path, waiting for her to trip so they could laugh harder. Life for Ifoma was full of sadness and loneliness. One day, a new family arrived and settled in the hut next to hers. They had a daughter named Ngozi, a slim, graceful girl with long, dark hair and soft brown eyes. She wore bright beads and flowing Ankara dresses that made everyone adore her instantly. Ngozi quickly became the most admired girl in the village, surrounded by those who wanted to be close to her. Ifoma, curious and hopeful, wished they could be friends since they were neighbors. Gathering all her courage, she approached Ngozi one afternoon while she sat by the river with her friends. "Hello," Ifoma said softly. "My name is Ifoma. I live next to your hut. Can we be friends?" Ngozi looked at her and burst into cruel laughter. Then she shouted loudly for everyone to hear, "Why would I ever be friends with someone like you? You're fat, ugly, and disgusting. Go away and don't ever talk to me again." Her harsh words echoed as the other girls joined in laughing, pointing at poor Ifoma until she ran away in tears. Fatty, big and clumsy. No one wants you." The girls chanted cruelly. A sharp wave of pain and rage rose inside Ifoma's chest. Tears blurred her eyes as she turned and bolted home, slamming the wooden door behind her. She locked herself inside her hut and refused to come out. Drowning in sorrow, she ate even more than usual, finishing all the food that had been prepared for the whole family's dinner. In her heart, she wished she could vanish or transform into someone else entirely. A few days later, a royal herald entered the village, beating a drum and calling out an announcement. He declared that Obi, the king of the kingdom, was seeking a wife and would soon visit the village to choose his bride. All the eligible young women were ordered to prepare themselves, as the king would pick the most graceful and enchanting maiden of them all. The news sent waves of excitement through the village. Every girl except Ifoma began dressing up in their finest beads, jewelry, and bright clothes, practicing their walks and smiles to impress the king. Ngozi was the boldest of them all, confident, ambitious, and certain that her beauty would captivate the king at first sight. She was sure she would soon become the next queen. Ifoma, however, felt only dread. Convinced that her size would bring her nothing but humiliation, she had no interest in meeting the king. She stayed inside her hut, feeling trapped and hopeless, wishing she could escape her miserable life. When the long-awaited day finally arrived, the king's entourage swept into the village. Obi was tall and striking, wearing a golden crown atop his head and a flowing leopard skin cloak over his shoulders. His presence left the villagers breathless. The king entered the village with pride, greeted the chief and elders, and then began meeting the young women. He strolled through each corner, asking the girls about their names and families while quietly observing their behavior. Many tried to impress him with smiles, laughter, and flattery, but none caught his attention. Kazi was the boldest among them, flaunting her beauty and figure in an obvious attempt to win his favor. Yet the king remained unmoved. He found most of them too proud, noisy, or shallow. He wasn't seeking vanity, he wanted a woman with grace, warmth, and kindness. Just as he was ready to leave disappointed, he noticed a small hut he hadn't visited. Curious, he asked the chief who lived there. The chief replied that it belonged to a farmer's daughter named Ifora, known as the fattest girl in the village, always lost in her thoughts, singing to herself or tending to her plants. The chief advised the king not to waste his time calling her plain and unattractive. But the king's curiosity deepened. Ignoring the warning, he went to her home and gently knocked on the door. A soft, nervous voice asked, "Who's there?" The king answered kindly, "Ifora, please don't be frightened. I'm not here to harm you, I just wish to talk." Unsure but strangely drawn by the gentleness in his tone, Ifora hesitated for a moment, then opened the door to let him in. When Ifora opened the door, she was stunned to see the king standing before her, smiling warmly. He was tall and strikingly handsome, his brown eyes filled with gentleness rather than judgment. Unlike others, his gaze carried curiosity and admiration, not pity or scorn. The king stepped inside her small, modest home, noticing how tidy and welcoming it was despite its simplicity. His eyes caught the dresses Ephora had sewn by hand, and he was clearly impressed by her skill. Then turning to Ephora, he took in her soft features, her round face, bright eyes and graceful curves, and said kindly, "It's truly a pleasure to meet you, Ephora. You have a beautiful smile." His words left her speechless. No one had ever spoken to her that way. Blushing, she replied quietly, "Thank you, Your Majesty. You're very kind." They exchanged warm smiles that lingered longer than expected. Hours passed as they talked, laughed, and shared food. Ephora opened up about her painful past, how she had been mocked for her body by the other girls. The king listened intently, his expression sorrowful. He told her he found her beauty radiant, her size graceful, and her spirit hard-working and pure. "From the moment I saw you," he said, "I felt drawn to your strength and heart." Ephora's eyes glistened with joy. For the first time, she felt truly seen and valued. Outside, however, whispers spread through the village. The other girls, especially Unoi, were furious and shocked by what was happening inside. Raging with jealousy that the king had visited Ephora and spent so much time in her hut, Unoi's bitterness reached a breaking point. She had despised Ephora for as long as she could remember, not just for being different, but because she carried happiness even in her loneliness. A quiet joy made Unoi furious. For years, she had made Ephora's life miserable, doing everything possible to crush her spirit. She mocked her weight, humiliated her in public, and hurled cruel names at her. Whenever she could, Unoi stole her things, broke her clay pots, and took pleasure in seeing her cry. When none of that broke Ephora's spirit, Unoi resorted to words that cut deeper than knives, calling her worthless, unwanted, and a mistake. But the moment she saw the king gazing at Ephora with admiration and tenderness, something inside Unoi snapped completely. She refused to believe that the fat, pathetic girl could capture the heart of a royal. The thought of Ephora becoming queen, adored, respected, and envied, was unbearable. Her envy consumed her until it turned into pure hatred. Determined to destroy everything Ephora loved, Unoi made a dark decision. She would visit the witch, the one who lived deep in the forest, feared by everyone for her terrifying powers. That witch could twist fate itself, curse lives, and even bring death, all for the right price. Unoi's heart pounded with rage, but she felt no fear. She was ready to pay whatever it took to ruin Ephora forever. Unoi had been to the witch before, and for her, the only thing scarier than the dark forest was the idea of losing the king and watching Ephora be happy. She was prepared to pay any price. That evening, Unoi counted the coins she'd hidden, gathered them in a small pouch, and set off into the trees. She walked for hours until at last she reached the witch's hut. Standing before the crooked door, Unoi knocked and called out, "Great witch of the wood, I need your help, and I've come to make a bargain." The door creaked open and the witch peered out with a sly, cruel smile. Well, well, well. What do we have here?" the witch purred. "A pretty girl with a nasty problem. Come in, tell me everything." Inside the hut, it was shadowed and strange. Skulls, bones, feathers, and glass bottles of dark liquids lined the shelves. The witch crouched by a bubbling cauldron, a black cat curled at her feet, a coiled snake drifting in a wooden bowl, and an owl blinked from a rafter. A cold shiver ran down Unoi's spine, but fear had no hold over her. She would pay any cost to ruin Ephora's joy. The witch leaned forward and asked, "Tell me, little one, what do you want me to do?" "Make the king love me," Unoi begged. "Make him hate Ephora, make him choose me. Leave her with nothing." The witch's eyes glittered. "You seek a love enchantment, a dangerous charm," she warned. Unoi answered without hesitation, "Yes, I want it. I'll pay." The witch smiled thinly. "I can do it," she said, "but every spell demands its price. Name yours and we will speak terms." I laughed. "My price is simple, pretty little girl. My price is your music." "Soul," I was shocked. "My soul? What do you mean?" "Yes," the witch said, her eyes glinting with darkness. "I want your essence, your spirit, the very thing that makes you human. That thing that makes you, you. Can I just give you money?" I asked, trembling. "I don't want your money," she hissed. "I want your soul. I'll keep it, use it for my pleasures, make more spells and potions, and grow stronger. I will become the greatest and I will have it all." Fear gripped me. What happens to me without my soul? The witch laughed, a high-pitched, piercing shriek. "You will lose it all. Your feelings, your thoughts, your dreams. You will become nothing. But will I still have the king's love, or will I I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She handed me a vial filled with red, foul-smelling liquid. I hesitated, feeling a flicker of doubt. But I drank it anyway. Immediately, a searing pain shot through me. Nausea washed over my body. I screamed, cried, and begged for mercy, writhing on the ground until I finally drifted into a dark, endless sleep where nothing existed.